Doing the things that bring you joy is not selfishness. Doing the things that bring you joy. Again, so far as what you're doing is not at someone else's expense or harming yourself or someone, right? You move from being a tumbleweed, being blown around like a, with any wind that comes in. It's like, oh, here I
Right.
go. This wind
Yeah.
came in. Oh, I'm going to go this way. Oh, but what about the way that you want to go? You become a tree. You become an oak
Mm-hmm.
tree, deeply rooted. Doesn't matter what wind comes in. It's like, I know who I am. Yeah, my leaves will shake a little bit because I'm curious. Okay, that's
Mm,
fascinating. But I know who I am. You're not going to blow me out of this soil. We're all rice balls with unique stuff behind us, different
exactly.
gemstones behind us that we can't see, but someone can see that. When you are anchored in the truth of who you are, nothing outside of you can shake you or shift you or try to make you into anything that you're not, because you know who you are. It's as
Yeah.
simple as this is why it's so important for you, every one of us, to spend time getting to know you.
Yes.
It's so worth it. Like, I can't
Yes.
even like stress that enough. It's like so worth it to walk in this world and know exactly who you are.
If you say recalibrating one more time, I swear I'm gonna mute you.
Transmission received, let's find out. Signal locked. Incoming transmission from the Blob, a quantum vessel of expansion and remembrance. Guest identified, Mahesh Grossman, story alchemist, subconscious navigator, and transmuter of pain into portals. Frequency scan complete. Emotional field, resilient. Mission signature, activate ancestral codes through hypnotic healing. Welcome aboard, Mahesh. The Intergalactic Council is listening.
Nice to see you.
Oh, yes. Wow. Thank you for sending a transmission our way. Traveling between this cosmos, it's a pretty long time before we see other travelers. So I'm always excited when I get to run into new people.
Me too.
um, so what I always like to do when I meet my new cosmic travelers, just play a little game where we spin the cosmic wheel and it'll pop on a question and you can answer it.
Sounds good.
All right, let's go. All right, and let's give it a go. The cosmic wheel of wisdom. How has the moon influenced your life or rituals? Huh, interesting.
Boy, um, you know, I see my guru every year on the full. There's a holiday in India called Guru Purnima, which is the full moon holiday, and I don't know if I see him every single year on that holiday, but virtually every year he's in the States on that holiday, and most of the time I go. So that is kind of a ritual of mine,
Mm.
determined by outside forces to a certain extent. But yeah, that's it. That's it. And I love to see the full moon, of course.
Absolutely. I think there is one tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah. The well, I don't know. I'm not really that great at astrology,
I know.
but
I
yes,
just got.
there is.
If I had time, I just got an email about it a second ago before we got started.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know it's like supposed to be like the big one with all of these like downloads and all of these things, and I try to keep up with that, but so we have other people who do that, and I tune into them and get the information from them
Yeah,
that way.
the truth about astrology is whatever is happening to you is happening.
Right.
And we
Exactly
dislike
right.
astrology because we think we can control things or know about things ahead of time. And it's so not specific. So,
Right.
you know, I've had a few
Yeah.
astrological things come extremely true,
Hmm.
but also plenty of things that astrologers have told me that have been like, yeah, not at all close.
Right. For me, I feel like it's life is all about possibilities. So it may be true in that exact moment, but then you could go and make a choice or decision that completely shifts the outcome and changes the possibility because they're like endless possibilities. So yeah, maybe it was right at the time, but something happened and now that's no longer relevant. That's pretty much how I like to look at it.
Well,
But
that's
it's
nice. It's
really,
also okay to have astrologers be wrong.
yeah.
Psychics are wrong. The
Oh
only way you
yeah,
know somebody was right is after if something happens, then you know they're right.
right, right. I was the other day I was listening to about projects that the CIA ran using psychics, and they're like the good ones were right like 30% of the time.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. All right. So, all right, let's get into it. So, you work with the subconscious mind, and so what do you think is happening when people try to manifest? What do you think is the inner workings in the mind is happening when they're actually
You've got the wrong person for manifestation stuff.
okay?
I do not do that stuff. I'm not sure I'm a big fan or believer in it. To be
Mm,
honest, I feel like what's really going on when people manifest is they're not actually manifesting. They're picking up psychically on
mm,
what's going to happen anyway. And
mm-hmm,
so, because the question you have to ask about manifestation is, why do I want what I want?
mm,
And where did my desire to have that happen come from?
mm-hmm,
And I got news for you. It's not from you. Why, you don't really choose why you like or want certain things. You don't know why you like or dislike cilantro.
love cilantro.
Yeah, a lot of people do, and a lot of people taste kind of,
Like soap. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm like I
Yeah,
don't get that.
yeah, because you have a different set of taste buds.
Mm-hmm.
We have no idea why we want what we want, and or why we are the way we are. There's such an absolute combination of genetics,
Mm-hmm.
inborn tendencies. They're called vasanas in Sanskrit. Uh, the things that happen to us and the psychology that have lived through, and who knows what else. So,
Yeah, yeah.
who's, on another level, who is there to manifest in the first place? What if, we're not really the body, right?
No.
So if we're not the body and we're just the experience, we're the experiencer of the body. We're the knower of the
Mm,
body.
mm,
So
yeah.
yeah, all the rest is what
Yeah.
I started calling the blob.
Right, exactly. Yes, and we will get into that. But no, I think you're right. You say that. Oh no, I don't. I don't like manifestation, and I'm not the person to ask. But you just really said like, first of all, we are not the body, right? We are spiritual. We are energetic light beings, right? We are connected to everything, and we like to think that we know what we want. I was just telling someone like it's important that we really study ourselves because when we do, we learn that it is way bigger than us, right? It is beyond us, and we are just these little pieces of the puzzle. And so, manifestation for me isn't really about trying to make something happen, it's more of going with the flow of life and things just naturally flow, right? You tune into these energies and you're like, well, okay, I see this and then it happens, it appears because I'm in the flow. I'm in the energetic frequency of all that is, right? It's like it's really hard for me to explain because I feel like I'm always connected to the universal force.
Right?
And
But
so Yeah, go ahead.
But when you fail, you're also connected to the universal force.
Yeah, yeah.
This is all one. It doesn't matter. The most profound, one of the most profound experiences I've had was I had a period of unconditional joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the thing about it was it was really about unconditional. It didn't
Yeah.
matter. And one day, towards the end of it, I was ushering at for a play, and I had this really great day in San Francisco. And I've discovered my first parklet long before COVID, and that was kind of
Mm,
exciting. A friend of mine showed me all these little what not boats is the wrong, you know what I mean, just houseboats and things like that, and saw some
mm, mm,
Pluto, including one that was decked out like the Taj Mahal. That
mm.
was fun.
That's
I wrote about 5 pages for a book I was working on for somebody, and I was going through, and this is good, and this is good, and it was like the moment I chose to view things as good or bad, even good, but especially good, I felt awful
mm,
because as soon as you're distinguishing between good and bad, you're no longer in a space of unconditional.
mm,
And
mm.
that experience of unconditional joy was only it felt great, but it didn't feel
Yeah.
good from that state. Defining things as good or bad wasn't. In fact, I mean that's
Mm,
really what the story of Adam and Eve and the tree of
mm.
knowledge is about. What throws them out of the Garden of Eden being kind of the state of unconditional joy,
Yeah.
is distinguishing things
Mm,
between good and bad.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to going through a period. It was like a year long back and forth, right? It was like moments of complete bliss. So, like, you can't even describe feeling the love of God. It's like the only thing that you can really, like, it would just invigorate my body, and I literally would just break down crying at little slightest things out of
Wow.
bliss, right? But then on the other side of that, I would completely, like, I was also having moments of complete sadness and just utter pain, and it was really like back and forth, like, intensely until it balanced out for me. But in that, I, you know, realized that without the deep, dark pain, I couldn't experience that blissful state. You know, I just, oh, it was an experience. I really,
Wow.
I remember it like it was yesterday. It was just so intense. I never felt anything like that. But when I was going through that, that's when that helped me overcome my depression and
Oh,
suicidal
wonderful.
thoughts and
Yeah.
anxiety.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And I have recently been talking more about that experience, right? Because for the longest time, I didn't think that you could overcome anxiety, you could overcome depression, you could, overcome those really dark thoughts. Um, there were a few people that like. I enjoyed them. I admired them. I grew up watching these people, and I remember one guy took his life in the '60s, and I was like, "Oh, that's it. Like, you don't ever get to run this. Like, and like this man." On the outside, right, lived a relatively good life, and to make it your entire life and just end it at 60, it's like, wow. And then I experienced another person who took his life, and he had a lot of kids. And I'm like, that's when it hit me. I said, oh, this is, even when you're in that deep, dark place, to just take your life is selfish, because it's not just about you. There are a whole community of people around you that love you. And so even though you're going in that moment and you feel like you don't see the way out, I realized that I had to find an anchor, right? I needed something to anchor me here. Because yeah, just imagining how distraught my family would be, kind of helped me out with that. But um, all that to say, I know you have your book, 1 Minute Anxiety, and you talk about this. Like, how can, first of all, when people feel like there's no way out of anxiety, there's no way out of that constant state of just overthinking, and you know, which I found that anxiety led to depression for me, and then depression led to, and it was a loop, right?
Right, right.
How, yeah. So what would you say to people who are trying to find their way out of that loop?
Well, first off, I'd say keep trying. There's lots of tools out there that you haven't explored. And to me, the biggest thing is to connect to your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so much. I mean, I have a lot of tools. Some of them are simpler and not and more general. But the deepest thing you can do for yourself is to notice where you feel tension in your body when you're anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that moment, you can do all kinds of things. I mean, I before I go into that, I'll show you. I'll show you first my number one technique in terms of like social media. Loving, this has gotten more than 500,000 views on social media, and probably closer to 1 million because also I've run ads on it, so those don't show
Yeah.
up in the count.
Oh,
But this is a very simple technique that anybody can do, and it's very common for most people, which is why so many people have liked it. So
yeah.
it's just a very simple thing. You've got a ridge right above your eye.
Mm,
You're going to just make a letter C around your eye, and then you can do it around the other eye, and you do it like 3 times on each side. And it's very calming on a it's very strange how well it works. I don't know if you've ever seen bunnies when you pet them on their nose will sometimes
oh.
just completely freeze up and not move.
Mm,
Feels like this is kind of the human version of that bunny kind of
mm,
feeling. So it's a really cool technique. Some people told me that they've done it with their infants, and it really calmed them down. Some people have written to me, their comments on the video was, "I did this in the middle of a panic attack, and it went away."
mm,
So it's a very profound technique in its own level. But
mm, mm,
most of the techniques that I do have to do with trying to move the anxiety out of your body exactly where you feel it, like with surgical precision. And I have a technique called zipper surgery,
mm,
and it's very simple. And in fact, what I think this is a really terrific technique to use kind of as a practice, especially for depression as well as anxiety, because you can do this with your eyes closed when you're
mm,
waking up. Nobody knows, even if you're like holding a partner, they won't know you're doing this, and eyes don't have to be open. But there are these main areas where we hold tension in our body, where we hold emotional tension in our body, and it's the throat, it's the chest,
mm.
it's the solar plexus, and the belly. So as a practice, now you can do this for. I'm going to talk about it for depression because you brought up depression first. As a practice, because there are days where I've woken up really depressed and not wanting to, just feeling like, oh my god, another day.
Yeah.
And I did this, and then it's like, oh yeah, another day. And part of the
Mm,
reason that happens in the morning for us, they say that our cortisol is highest when we first wake up. What they don't say is that your subconscious mind processes a lot of material overnight,
mm,
a lot of leftover emotional stuff that you haven't gone all the way through. And it can have leftover discomfort when you wake up. Lots of leftover emotions. So the the way to so I would do this as a practice. And after I was done, I was like, oh, it's another day.
Mm,
It's a very different experience. And it was like, I don't really suffer depression per se. It was more of a momentary kind of thing.
yeah.
But I've used it with clients as well who've had depression, and it's made a big difference in their life.
Mm,
And for me, it was like, you wake up with, I process a lot of stuff overnight. And
mm,
you're processing stuff because think of all the dreams you have.
dreams, yeah. Mm,
Lots and lots of dreams that are, and I'm pretty good at dream interpretation, but there's a lot of
mm,
times where I can't. I just had a series of dreams last night where it's like, I have no clue what this means.
yeah, yeah.
And I don't even have like, if I said it, and it helps to say things out loud. If you want to try to understand a dream, tell it to
Mm,
someone else or tell it to yourself out loud. It
yes,
makes a difference.
yes.
And this is like, yeah, this is so far beyond the realm of my comprehension. I don't have like,
Mm,
I don't have a whole like one Swiss cheese hole, let alone a lot of Swiss
mm,
cheese holes. So here's the technique. It's really, really simple. You can start with your throat and just imagine there's a zipper there. And like close your eyes and imagine there's a zipper there. You can follow along if you're listening. And then just when you unzip that area, you'll see something that your subconscious mind will give you an image.
mm,
It's sludge, maybe it's rocks, maybe it's
mm,
snakes, who knows? But it's something in there. It's hopefully it's not organs. It's like some people have this Grey's Anatomy thing going on when they do this,
mm,
but only about 10 or 20% of the people I do it with have that Grey's Anatomy thing. Excuse me. Everyone else, they'll see some kind of thing that represents attention, or they may see nothing because it could be in a different spot in your body. I'm giving you the
mm,
4 spots to do as a practice. As you get good at this, you can just notice where you feel tension in your body and just work on the places where you feel it. But if you're not as in touch with your body, you can do this instead. And so you just unzip it. If there's stuff in there, you imagine it coming out. Let's say there's sludge. You can imagine whatever tool makes sense to you. A lot of my clients like shop vacs.
mm.
I had to look on Amazon to see what that was. But
Yeah.
yeah, so you just kind of shop vac it out of you, and then you go to your heart, to the center of your chest, and you unzip there,
Mm,
and you see what's there, and then you take it out however it needs to come out. Somebody just wrote to me that she saw a cat. So okay, you can sometimes you toss it in the sun, and
mm,
let it burn up. But if it's a cat, you can let it just wander off into the forest.
mm,
Snakes, you can do the same thing. Snakes are one of the more common ones after
mm,
sludge and rocks and stuff like that. And sometimes it's just something that has some kind of meaning to you that you need to let go of.
mm,
So who know? You never know what you're going to see. And then you repeat the same thing in the center of your solar plexus or midriff or the third chakra or what else can we call it? The area between your stomach and your chest.
right.
I always worry that people are not going to know where I'm
Yeah.
talking about. And then you do the same thing for your stomach. And if you do this and you get rid of the stuff for however long it takes to get rid of, and then zip up all the places,
Mm.
and you wind up in a very different state.
Yeah, you know what? I wish I had that when I was really going through uh, the height of all of that. I wish I had those techniques. But what helped me also is, I've been writing for as far as I can remember. So being able to just let it out and express myself would help me in that moment. But it's interesting what you said about that technique with the brows. Something I do. I hold. I know the spots where I hold a lot of tension and energy, and one of those is there. So I have I have a jade roller, and I just, I do that with the jade roller, and it feels. But by the time I'm done, it's just like you literally feel all the pressure release.
Oh, that's great.
It's you feel like more glowy, and yeah, that's
Yeah,
one of my favorite things. And the other thing I do, I have a foam roller. This foam roller changed my life. I hold so much tension in my back, and
right.
whew, game changer for the foam rollers.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah, I may need to go play with the foam roller for a little
yes.
while.
It's my most favorite thing when my personal trainer introduced me to it. I was like, I went out that same day and immediately bought one. I had never seen one before. I was like, I can get all the spots that I couldn't get. But, I do that when I feel like, hey, I have a lot going on that day and my mind is just going. I just take a minute. I just lay down, pull out the foam roller, and just start from my crown and just roll all the way down. And by the time I'm done, I mean, I forget about whatever was happening. you know,
Thought I turned my phone off, but I didn't.
you're fine.
Um,
So, yeah, go
yeah, speaking of having tension right here, here's one for worry and overthinking that people really like also, which
ahead.
is you just imagine the zippers in your forehead right there. And the thing with worry and overthinking is you have these things work and change channels because so your anxiety is coming from the cave, what I call the cave brain. It's really the
Mm,
amygdala and a bunch of other. They've discovered these. There's more than one area in the brain, but
mm,
most people refer to it as the amygdala. Guess what
yeah.
amygdala means?
Why?
Almond in Greek. We have all these complicated scientific names, but really, because it's two almond shaped uh, parts of the brain, they're just a scientific name for almonds. So I prefer cave brain because it
Mm,
relates to what we needed to
uh,
do to survive when we were cave people.
right,
And so
right.
when we're in the cave brain, it thinks we're going to die. But as
Mm,
soon as we use the more modern parts of the brain, it's like those parts of the brain send a text message that say, "Hey, she's okay.
mm,
You don't have to send anxiety symptoms anymore." So there's that
mm,
level of it, and there's also, because this area is where the third eye is located. Um, it's kind of like a clearing of the third eye on some very strange level, and the third eye is where we hold our worry and things like that.
mm,
So what you do is you just unzip this spot and you see, a cash register receipt, the white cash register receipt at the grocery
oh,
store.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you see a little slip of paper like that. And actually do it with me now if you'd like. And
Yeah,
just
yeah.
imagine pulling that out from the zipper and just keep going and going and going until there's no more left. And if you're listening, this is something you can do. Even in the car, you can do it. You
Yes.
don't have to be
I
close.
just did mine. I just
Yeah, and you
put
can
my fingers up to my head.
scrunch it up like a ball and toss it into the sun.
Mm,
And you'll notice that there's actually a sensation of feeling clear.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's a really good thing.
Threshold breach detected. Initiating cancel broadcast.
Have you ever stared into the void and thought, wait, is everything just one giant thing? If time, space, emotional triggers, and cosmic axes all seem suspiciously connected, you might already be experiencing early symptoms of universal entanglement syndrome. The Intergalactic Council's Department of Cosmic Coherence invites you to participate in the United Soup of Consciousness Initiative. Here, we don't fix reality. We just float in it. Together. Participants report spontaneous enlightenment, unexpected laughter, and an inability to take form-based identity too seriously. The soup is real. The separation was not. The Unified Soup of Consciousness Initiative. Because it's not just a theory. It's
So,
One yeah,
go ahead.
one technique I also learned was when you're meditating, and this is for if you are also dealing with like anxiety. When you're meditating, they're like literally take your hands and feel around you, and you will feel the dense areas of air. You like it, yeah. Like I used to, and I would feel a lot on this side, and they're like, okay, so when you're feeling around and you feel these dense areas, what you do is you just clear them out, and you'll do that until you go around and you don't feel anything anymore. But yeah, when I first did it, I was like, oh, okay, I'll give this a try. And I immediately started feeling around. I didn't get far, and I felt it right there. I'm like, oh wow, this is really, I can feel this whole
Yeah.
energy right here, and just would clear it away. And I thought that was really awesome. Have you heard of that technique? I forget what it was called.
I haven't heard of it per se, but I do this when I work with clients. I find myself connect because what happens when I work with a client, and probably happens for a lot of practitioners, uh, somewhat more so for me, is this field forms between us, and it's almost like one energy field between us, and they feel more comfortable going to the deep places that they need to go to heal kind of old trauma and things like that.
Mm,
And they may notice that they release it through yawning or burping or
mm,
stomach growling or little muscle spasms. And I almost always burp stuff out for other people when I'm working with them, which I always have to say because it's like, okay, this is going to happen, and it's not digestive issues. I didn't just drink a gallon of soda. It's like this only happens when I'm doing
wow.
work with other people, or if I'm doing work with myself, it'll happen too.
Mm,
Which is how I know something's really working or not. It's like this is
mm,
perfectly fine. But the other thing that happens is because our field is like one field. I find myself moving stuff out energetically for them, and sometimes I'll ask them to do it. A lot of times their eyes are closed, and I just do whatever just kind of shows up to do. So yeah,
mm,
I'm totally on board with the moving the energy thing, and if you're
yeah.
sensitive enough to it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of sensitive, one of the other things that's been popular on social media for me is a lot of people are not totally connected to their body,
Mm,
and they say, well, I don't actually know much in terms of feeling my body. And I'm like, okay,
mm.
here is a technique for that, and people love and hate me for it. And when you hear what it is, you'll understand. And it came about because this guy never became a client, but somebody called me who was um, on dialysis 3 days a week,
Ah,
and he was the least hypnotizable person I've ever spoken to. There's certain things you can ask. When you see a movie, do you feel sad when the main character has something sad happen? Do you feel happy? No.
mm,
Have you ever been so lost in thought that you missed your stop on the freeway or whatever it is? No.
no. Mm,
But we're talking, and he's called me about trying to control itching because
mm,
he itches from the dialysis machine. And he said, but this was a Tuesday or Thursday, and we talked about itching, and we were talking about it so much that he began to itch,
mm.
which is a sign of hypnotizability. Even in spite of his
Yep.
not being very
Yeah.
hypnotizable, he was hypnotizing himself into itching.
Mm,
It became I have a little quiz on how hypnotizable you are.
Mm.
If you go to anxiety123.com, I'm pretty sure that there's a link there. It's if you want to see anything I've got, including my ebook, which has 57 ways to lower anxiety, and my Defy Trauma course, and there's something free I'll be talking about in a minute. And the quiz. They're all. I wanted to make it as easy as 123 to remember, so it's at anxiety123.com.
Yes, and we will have a QR code for everyone to scan that will take you to all of his links.
Oh, awesome! That's great. Sometimes people just listen though, so I listen
No,
to
but
stuff on while I'm on the machines at the gym. So
yeah.
yeah, a lot of times I don't ever go to the site to find it out to find it. So that's why the anxiety 123. At any rate, for this quiz, I decided to ask people to imagine a spot where they itch.
Mm,
And then, depending on how they've responded, whether it was like, oh my God, just reading the question is making me itch, or I found one, or no, I never found one. That tells, if you read the question and you itch, then you're pretty hypnotizable.
mm,
And you're or more hypnotizable than most, right?
mm.
I looked at I did pictures with the quiz, and I had all these pictures of itchy people that I was
Mm.
looking through. Oh my God, I wanted to throw myself out a window. I itched so much because I'm pretty hypnotizable. So,
Mm,
however, what I've discovered is if I ask everyone I've ever asked if they could find a place where they itch, has been able to do it. If you just scan your body and notice your body and see if you can notice where you might feel an itch, you actually feel it. And guess what that
mm,
means? It means you're connected to your body, right? You're really
mm,
in touch with the senses of your body. And when you
mhm.
go from there, you can go to the next level. So people love me for it because they love to be connected to their body, but they hate me for it because who wants to itch? So,
Right, exactly. It's like now you have me itching, but I am into it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there's that.
So, little interactive moment. So, your mind, your subconscious mind. If it was a character in a movie, what would it be?
Oh, I don't think of it like that. So here's what I do with characters, though.
Mhm.
So I'll get there in a second because then I'll describe another process,
Okay.
which is where I use this. So so when we're triggered, when somebody does something and we get really out of sorts by what they're doing, the truth of the matter is it's not them, it's us.
Yeah.
There's some old pain that we're that's been triggered, but it's our stuff. It's not them. So
Mm-hmm.
this is part of a process I use with the Defy Trauma process, but you can use it just to go a little bit, or you can go all the way to kind of healing something really profoundly. But it's a really simple thing where you just when you're triggered, the first step is to notice where you feel it in your body, where you
Mm,
feel it the strongest. And the stuff that's in the torso, the throat, the chest, the belly, the solar plexus, those are all higher priority than other places you might
right.
feel it. If you feel it in your shoulders, you feel it in your shoulders. But if you feel it in your shoulders and your chest, work on the chest. So
Yes.
and so I have something called the emotional overload uh, first aid kit where I teach this technique for free, and it's at anxiety123.com if you look for emotional overload first aid kit. But all you do next is you just say, how old was I the first time I had this sensation, it's let's say in my chest? And
Mm,
that's kind of vague and difficult. So the next thing you do is it was I 10 or under or 11 or older? And you let the
mm,
answer come to you as an aha moment.
mm.
And let's say it's 10 or under because it's a little easier to control on a little podcast.
Yeah.
And then you ask, were you 0 to 5 or 6 to 10? And then
Mm,
let's say you get 6 to 10. Then you just keep doing math, right? 6 to 8 or 9 or
right.
10. And eventually let's say you hit 9. So you get to 9. So whatever's being triggered is something from when you were 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So the next step is to ask, where was I when I had this feeling? Was I at home or school or someplace else? And let's say home. And then you ask,
Yeah.
where was I? Who was I with? And whoever you're with, who were you upset with? Let's say it was your mom. Then there are these sentences you can say. Oh, and by the way, if you were alone, you're still upset about something. So you ask,
Yeah.
who was I upset with while I was, having this feeling? And it's like, whatever. It's,
Mm,
let's say it's a kid in school, my brother who was away for the, someplace else,
mm,
whatever it is. But let's say it's your mom, and let's say, and then why was I upset? Well, she was really critical. So then there's these fill in the blank sentences. They're very simple. It's blank, you really made me blank
mm.
when you blank. So, mom, you really made me sad, scared, or mad when you criticize me all the time, or whatever yours is. I like criticized because, first off, everybody has it a little bit. And
Yeah.
secondly, it's not super triggering. So,
Mm,
so you have to be careful. So when you do this, your mom automatically, who's a part of you, right? There's no
mm.
mom anywhere near present. And for some of us, their parents are long gone.
Yeah.
But even if they're still alive, if I'm 40, if I were 40, that would be nice. If I'm 40 and this happened when I was 9, that mom is long gone. That mom from 31 years ago, but she's alive and well inside me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not the mom inside me. She's really just a part of myself that doesn't love myself unconditionally.
Mm,
And so when I say to this mom, it really hurt me when you criticize me all the time, she's not going to say something satisfying because this is some unresolved, it triggered us because there's something unresolved here. What she'll say is, look, you needed that. I wanted you to, and there was something, I was trying to help you,
mm,
or,
mm.
whatever else, or that's how my mom treated me. But she'll say
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
negative.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so eventually there's techniques I use to work directly with that mom where you get her to say, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Mm,
I love you. You're a great kid. I never should have done that, and I won't do it again.
mm,
And that heals something really profoundly. But there's a lot of times where people can't actually believe, like there's no possibility in their mind their real mom could ever actually say that,
mm.
because it's so deeply embedded. Especially, the
Right.
more difficult somebody was, the more embedded it is. So that's when I use something I call the understudy.
Mm,
And the understudy is either someone you know and you love from life itself, or a character from a book, TV show, or movie, or a celebrity.
mm,
And interestingly enough, when you do it with someone you consider loving, about 90% of the time, sometimes you have to do all kinds of other tricks to get them to say it because it's so embedded that
mm,
even like,
mm.
Meryl Streep won't make you feel like you're loved. But I mean, for my mom, I've used Edith Bunker. I don't know if you're old enough for Edith Bunker from All in the Family. I've used Phoebe from Friends, especially
Mm.
for infant stuff because she had triplets and she was so loving about the triplets.
Oh yeah.
I've been watching All American a lot lately, so
Mm,
I've used Grace, the mom.
mm.
Watch that show, or if you don't know that show, but the people who watch that show, it's like this mom is such a great mom
Oh,
that
okay.
she's really good. Uh,
Mm.
and so usually and it depends on the situation.
Yeah, it took me a lot to work through my mother trauma. But it definitely everything was set up in a way that I had to face it head on. and it took some time, a couple of years, to really work it out, because I am like, you know, in her face. And so it was like dealing with it in the moment, not in my head, you
Yeah, well,
know, and
that's a different level.
yeah.
But there's a level that's still alive inside you.
Hmm.
Where I mean, look, I've been
Yeah,
dealing with mom stuff for 40 years,
yeah.
so internalized mom stuff, and I had crazy stuff go on that I didn't, in infancy. So it's like a whole
Hmm.
other layer of material that, after 20 years of working on myself, suddenly I got hit, hit pay dirt.
Mm. Oof.
With a whole bunch of stuff for most of the last 12 to 13, well, most of the 13 years. Um,
Mm.
so it's different levels. We're all working on kind of stuff, and there's also this other element, um, called epigenetic psychology.
Yeah.
And epigenetic psychology is, that we inherit trauma.
Hmm.
It's through the sperm and the egg, and they've got all kinds of studies, uh,
Hmm.
especially using, people from concentration camps, families of members of concentration camps. I like to me, the mice studies are the most interesting, actually, because they did experiments with mice, and they starved pregnant mice. The mice had their babies, and the baby mice, even though they had access to all the food and water they could possibly want, were lethargic and depressed, like they were starving,
Mm.
because they were carrying the mother's trauma. And we do that, and we do that
Hmm.
several ways. Partially through osmosis. Like, I mean, you can pick up on your parents' stuff, uh, just, by being in their vicinity.
Yeah.
But you can pick up on grandparents and ancestor stuff through the sperm and the egg kind of thing. So
Hmm.
it's a combination of both. But, you just, Alice Miller, who wrote the drama The Gifted Child, um, spoke about the infant picking up on the subconscious of the parent.
Hmm.
So that's the stuff that your parent wasn't even aware of, that gets transmitted to you. And so sometimes we have stuff that we need to release that isn't even ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have another technique for that. Being black in America, there can be all kinds of stuff, right? I mean, it's like generations back.
Hmm.
Forget the racism from now.
Yeah.
Think of
Yeah.
what your
This is
parents and
nothing.
grandparents and great
Yeah.
grandparents faced, and you may be carrying some of that. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and the one of the ways I deal with that is something I call the magnet technique.
Mm.
And if you want to do it with me now, just think about your mom. Just picture your mom, and imagine her holding a giant red horseshoe magnet with the tip, the silver tips. And then just hold on to the magnet. Let her hold on to the magnet, and the magnet's going to pull the stuff out that belongs to her, that doesn't
Mm.
belong to you.
Mm.
What you're going to say, I mean, what you're going to see, rather, is either it'll be physical stuff. A lot of people just see magnetic filings or whatever, but sometimes it's paper clips, sometimes it's rocks, sometimes one woman saw daggers. Her mother was like incredibly critical, and daggers came right out
Mm.
of her. And so there's that. And if you're seeing something on a physical level, what you can do is have your mom, if it fills up, right, physical stuff, the magnet will fill up, and then she can toss it into the sun, and a new one will magically appear in her hands.
Mm.
You just keep doing it until, until there's nothing left, or
Mm.
you've gone about as far as you're willing to go. Because sometimes there's just so much there that,
It's a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a one and done thing for most people. It's more of
No.
a practice, and you can do like both parents and both sets of grandparents, sometimes siblings, sometimes step parents, depending on your family and how things worked. But
Mm.
it's really powerful. The other thing that comes out is kind of an energetic kind of a sense of energy coming out, blue, whatever, or who knows, And
Mm,
sometimes it's just a sense of knowing of the emotion or a word that's coming out without actually seeing it happen on the magnet.
mm,
But that's one of the things I often do that the first time I work with someone, with all of those people, because it really does we carry it.
mm. Yeah, speaking of like just generational trauma and all of those things, I had an experience when I was traveling from work. I ended up going to a place where my ancestors were brought there when they brought them
Wow.
over. And my ancestors, they literally only were brought to two locations, and my family pretty much stayed. And so that was either we were brought to Delaware and New Jersey, New York area, which I'm from New Jersey, and then we were brought to South Carolina, Augusta, Georgia area, which is where
Wow.
I was. And actually, like, my grandmother was born there, but I had never met her because she died when my mother was a teenager. But when I moved there, it was like, well, first of all, that particular place um, played a big role in the Civil War and in the South during that era. They literally used to make the bullets. Like, that was the first uh, gunpowder factory for the Civil War.
Wow.
And in the area where I lived was literally the slave quarters and the master houses. And the immense amount of energy there was overwhelming. I mean, you can imagine, right? Having all of that history, all that energy there. But
Yeah.
in that, it connected me with a part of my roots that I hadn't experienced before. And actually, that opened me up to a lot of healing. It was a completely
Wow.
unexpected, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was an
that's the best
experience.
thing. That is the best thing when it's unexpected.
Hmm.
And I've had that experience in places not around that, but just around the energy really strongly at times. And weirdly, Peru, I felt a lot of energy,
Hmm.
not at Machu Picchu, but on the trails leading to Machu Picchu.
Hmm.
And so I was super excited when I went to Delphi in Greece,
Mm.
the Oracle of
Yes.
Delphi and stuff like that.
Yes.
Well, it turns out it was a total fraud. Delphi was a total fraud. I spent this money for this tour, all
Ah.
excited about what I'm going to feel there. There was no energy there at all to feel in terms of the kind of energy that you would want to feel
Mm.
because
Right.
they were all taught to be fake psychics.
Mm.
So there's no commas in the Greek language or in ancient Greek. I don't know how current Greek is, but and so they were taught to say things like they would say to a pregnant woman, "It's a boy." No, and that can either mean it's not a boy or
Right.
it's a boy. No. Yes.
Yeah, playing like with people's minds, really.
Yeah, yeah. So you can
Manipulation.
things that they
Hmm.
were taught how to say things that could be interpreted either way, and after the fact could seem right. Oh yeah, she said it's a boy. No, she said it's not a
That's
boy.
Yeah, that's insane. And but that's uh, something that people really can take advantage. People they want to experience these things. I remember I was watching something and it was talking about like oracles and psychics way back in America when it first started, and it was this woman who was she was obviously a fake psychic, and but she would go on for like almost like decades, pretty much just making a living off of people and using manipulation and
Right,
illusions, and like, really, because if you're aware, if you're like, maybe you're an empath type, you can pick up on energies, then it's easier to read people,
right,
and that's
right.
all it really does. You just read somebody and they'll be like, oh, you or you told my future, and it's like, no, it's like body language and fluctuations and all that stuff together. Yeah.
Yeah, if the CIA psychics were only right 30% of the time and they were really trying, then
Mm-hmm.
my ex-wife was psychic, and
Mm,
a lot. I mean, she was really good at like past trauma stuff,
mm-hmm.
and mostly the future. I mean, she would be off as much as she was on about a lot of things,
Yeah.
and you know, and I have my moments where I say some really accurate things to my sister and my daughter. I've been so on the money, and then they bug me, and I'm like, I don't necessarily believe that I'm getting stuff. I'm not.
Right.
It's not just because I hit it like right on the money a few times
Right.
doesn't mean I'm going to hit it right on the money every time. This is why it's just after my wife and I split up, and 11 years after that, I started having. I met my husband, and it started with this event at this Rosie the Riveter Museum. And I'm like, oh, I feel compelled to go to this thing, even though I want to stay home and take a nap on the couch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I said, maybe I'm going to meet somebody. Ha ha ha. You know, pretty much
Ah.
like that.
Oh wow, foreshadowing.
And
Yeah.
then I rebelled and got there like
Mm,
2:35 when it started at 2 o'clock.
mm,
And then we went to see part of what we wound up seeing Betty Soskind, who was the world's oldest park ranger, who finally she was 96, retired at 100.
mm,
And I'm standing there with all these feelings of love for Pat,
mm,
who I couldn't pick out of a lineup. Like I didn't
mm,
like I didn't even pay enough attention to him to even know what he looked like if he were in a criminal lineup. I'm like, okay,
mm,
these are not feelings for Pat. I love Betty because Betty was wonderful, and I'm just
mm,
transferring it on to Pat. And so it keeps going like this, and then I start getting these messages about how our relationship would be and past lives
mm,
together. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is true or maybe this is not. And I had
mm,
experiences like this with a woman once, and they were like, yeah, I was picking up on something, but I was picking up on the leftover grief of my wife from when she got really sick and never left the house again. Um,
mhm.
so, but with him, I was like, I only believe it. I'll only believe it if it becomes true.
Right.
But what I did do because of this other woman, it was like, okay, I'm not going to let this spread out over time. I'm just going to see him as much as I can until it's either this is real or this is false. And it turned out
Mm,
those feelings of love out of nowhere were and past life things were true.
yeah. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I believe everything. You know what I mean? It's like you can't really trust anything psychic until it actually comes true. It's a possibility, but
Yeah.
there's-
Yeah.
we have monkey minds.
Yeah. I can totally relate with you on that one. I feel like because we're all capable of tapping into the energies around us, then we have those moments. It doesn't necessarily mean, like you said, like, oh, I'm a psychic, but we have those moments of downloads when we need them. That's how I feel about that. But also, yeah, it's like I really like I hear it, but I am a skeptic, just all around skeptic, and yeah, I don't really believe something until I experience it. However, I had to learn that okay, I could feel like that, but at the end of the day, there's so much that I don't know. I can't just rely on what I see or hear or
Of
experience.
course not.
Hmm.
You follow. I had a therapist that I was with on and off for 15 years, and one of the best things he ever said to me was towards the end of it. He just said, "Just follow your intuition and your kind of your impulses to."
Yeah.
your interest, whatever, if something's grabbing your interest, then it's just, follow it. That's not the word is some other word that begins with an I.
Oh yeah, but I totally get what you're saying. And yeah, that's like how I had to learn to live life. I feel like that's when the magic happens, when you're open, when you're just not trying, but just in that flow state of life and going with those intuitive nudges, right? I think we get in our heads and block ourselves from so much. But I realized in my own life, once I really like got out of the way and said, okay, I'm just gonna, when I feel, that nudge, that intuition to do this thing, then I'm just gonna do it. I don't have to know
Yeah,
like how it's gonna work out. I don't have to know all of that. Just do it. Just do it.
but
And
we're meant to fail plenty of times too.
oh yeah,
So, it may be intuitively correct that you do this and that you have the experience of failing just as much as
exactly. Because it teaches you stuff.
it does.
Failure teaches you a lot. Yeah. And I really like over the past 4 years, I had a good 2 year period where literally everything, nothing worked out. Everything was a failure. Like literally everything was a failure. And I learned so much about myself from that. And actually, that built my confidence because I'm like, well, I'm not scared to fail. I've failed so many times.
That's
What's
great.
failure? Okay, what to do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's great.
yeah. So I definitely tell people, don't be afraid to fail. You're going to fail. Uh, you're going to fail way more times than you win, but you're going to learn so much from those failures. So,
Look, the
yeah,
biggest thing you can learn ever from any failure or any experience is to love yourself no matter
yeah,
what.
be gentle
Accept
and
yourself as.
kind. Yeah, that was a hard one for me. I was really like go 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 type of person, and if you gotta get it done, and you gotta be this and be strong and do all these things, and in that I would neglect myself. Like, how do I really feel right now? What's going on in my head? I had to learn to be like, listen, it's okay. It's okay if that didn't work out and you feel sad. Feel sad, embrace it. It's okay. Um, but really had to start. I started doing technique where I would just, especially like I said, it was 2 years of nonstop failure,
Yeah,
and I would just look in the mirror every day, like, you know what, it's okay, it's okay, and
that's good.
just it's okay. Yeah, because I realized in that I never heard that before, right? It's
Yeah,
like do do
that's
do,
great.
but it's not okay. You got to do it, and it's like, oh, but it is okay. It is okay.
Right, yeah. He just what he said actually was to follow your inclination and your intuition. If you find that you're
Yes.
inclined towards something, do it.
Mm,
It has some purpose,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
who
That's
knows
that.
what or why, and it doesn't mean it's going to turn out.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's. I think that's just life. So, like, what do you think it really takes to shift someone's perspective about their life, their reality, like their, I guess what I'm trying to ask, and forgive me, I have space cooties, so my brain is trying to process, but processing pretty slow because I'm a little under the weather. But say like what does it take for someone to really embrace making a radical change, like to be like, okay, I'm not liking the direction I'm going, or maybe I have all this trauma that I'm working through, and I'm actually at the point where I want to face it. Because a lot of people, it's difficult to face those shadow aspects of yourself, right?
Hmm.
Um, so, what do you think is the catalyst to really want that change. And sure, it's different for every person,
Yeah,
but
well, you're gonna. I feel like it's something that it's like it comes from someplace. We're
mm,
not doing it; it's doing us.
mm,
And so you don't ever have to worry. Am I doing enough? Yeah. If I
mm,
do have the impulse to do more, yeah. If I have the
mm,
impulse to do less, yeah.
mm,
People show up in your life that give you a message, or say something, and suddenly it makes sense. I mean, think about
mm,
alcoholics, where you know they don't listen, they don't listen, they don't listen, and then all of a sudden somebody says something the right way, at the right time. It's like, oh yeah,
mm,
it's got to
mm,
be, you know, it it's it's got to have. There's this. I mean, to me, it's all kind of karma.
yeah.
It's all kind of like we are just the knower of the body, and the body does its thing, and we
Mm,
are there knowing the body, knowing the experience, and the experience. I mean, if you look at life, you see that, if you look really, really in detail at what inspires you, what grabs your attention, you discover there was something else there that, if you hadn't seen it or heard about it, or God, now on the internet, you,
yeah.
and AI,
Everything's available. Oh yes,
you just
love
get
AI.
this. There's like a thread that points you,
Mm,
and
mm,
you do it, and you like things, and you have the impulse to do something or the inclination to do something, and you wind up doing it, and we don't know why.
mm,
I did not I mean, I signed up for that thing because I wanted to go to that Rosie the Riveting Museum.
mm,
And I didn't know. I didn't know. I The same thing happened to my wife when we met. Somebody gave me. I was hired to edit a book on to ghostwrite a book proposal for numerology,
mm,
and I used to go around to people, and if I was at a thing and I didn't know what to say, I said, when were you born? When's your birthday? Here's what your year is like." And this guy said, "Oh, I know a numerologist," and he gave me a card. And I didn't have anybody to talk to about it, because it was just something I did as a writing assignment. So it wasn't.
mm,
I was in this community of people who knew each other, who did things like this. And then I saw her ad in like the New Age newspaper in New York,
mm,
and I called her on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock, thinking I'd get her answering machine. And we talked for 3 hours,
mm,
and that was like out of and that was out of nowhere. And so,
mm,
and the feeling that I've gotten with in terms of relationships, there's already something there before you even get started,
yeah.
and you don't know why you love somebody, you just do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all these people who try to manifest their dream lovers, everyone I've ever seen make a list and then find a person who fit the list, didn't last very long with that person.
Yeah, no list. I do not believe in that. Because how? First of all, well, just me in general, I don't believe in uh, restrictions. Right? I don't believe in saying to yourself, like, yeah, you have your boundaries, what things that feel like would align to you in your life, but to make such a strict strategic list, you can't really get to know someone that way.
Yeah,
And I feel like it's more about connection than a list, because somebody might not fit all the boxes on that list, but they could be your soulmate. But you just
yeah,
missed out
really,
because you made a
truly.
list.
I would have
Hmm.
swiped left on both my ex-wife and my current husband based on certain
Mm,
categories, certain things about them.
right, right, right. And that's what I like my last relationship. We used to talk like we're so different than each other, and I was like, I never thought that we would match, but we did, and it was a long-term relationship, and it was good. But on the outside, it was like, yeah, I don't know. But the connection was really good. And so, yeah, I don't believe in the whole list thing and trying to manifest a specific person. Like, if you're
Right,
trying to
right.
manifest a specific person, they're not for you, you know?
Yeah, yeah. We don't know what's
Yeah,
best. Anyway, it's like we think we know what's best for us, but I mean, a romantic partner is probably going to make you grow, and you
yes.
may not like certain. I mean, nobody likes the conflict of that's involved in growing.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right. Yeah, partners usually mirror all those trauma and things that you need to get healed, And so I was thinking to myself the other day when I get ready to actually start dating again. I'm like, I have to be prepared to face some things that I've been alone for a long time. So I won't know until it actually happens and I start feeling those triggers, and to just keep that in the back of my mind because it will happen, right? And one thing I heard someone say is you are partnered how you're parented. So you will have a tendency to meet someone who displays the good and negative side of
Yeah,
your parents.
I think that can be true for first big relationships. I
mm,
found that it's less true for my second big relationship.
uh,
So
and
it's
what has probably healed a lot of that and
oh
grown,
yeah, I've
or
healed a tremendous amount of it. And so, I mean, we don't have that going on in the same way as my ex-wife and I did,
mm,
where it was really dramatic. So, and I wasn't aware of most of it. I mean, it's like, we met when I was 26 or something,
oh yeah, yeah,
and I wasn't aware of my stuff. And even with working on myself for all these years, because I worked pretty hard on myself starting around that age. Um,
mm,
entire layers only showed up 13 years ago.
mm,
The biggest, most profound stuff, and I looked for it.
yeah,
There were things that I got a no on that happened that I said asked about and said, "Did this happen?" And I got a no, and then all of a sudden it was time for me to know. You can't, I
mm,
therapist that I worked with right after I discovered the first of the people who molested me said the
mm.
subconscious gives up what it wants to give up when it wants to give it up, and I love that. I love that.
That's absolutely
We
true.
don't even have control over how much work we get to do and when we get to do it.
Absolutely right. Yes. Yeah, I like you. You know, I've been working on myself my entire life, but like you said, like I, really enjoy it, and I'm like try to like I'm gonna heal everything, and it's like, yeah, you're only gonna heal what we allow you to heal in this moment,
Yep, you
and
just get to eat what's on your plate.
right, exactly right, right.
Now,
So, yeah, I had to learn that.
the way I work with things, both with clients and on my own, is that there's this somatic quality of just noticing where you feel tension in your body and following that
Mm,
and working through stuff. There's also the stuff that makes you cry when you watch TV.
mm,
And that's always related not to the story of what's happening, but to something that's there for you.
mm,
Although in my case, the last week or two, it's been other people's. It's been my mother's stuff. It's been really insane.
mm,
And it's like I've done all that magnet work and all these other things, but this is like been really close to what it looks like to what it looks and feels like when it's my stuff. But I can tell it's
mm,
not my stuff.
mm, mm. Wow. Yeah, I was watching this show the other day and it did like strike a chord with me. And I'm not really someone who, cries over shows or anything, but it made me really emotional. And I'm like, it's interesting because their story, their life, their background is vastly different than mine. I can't even really relate to what they're saying in this, but I feel their emotions very strongly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was like,
And,
wow. I
and,
was like,
and the thing to ask is, what is this? what is the overall pattern here? The things that make me cry over and over again are when people are happy that somebody lived at a hospital show,
Mm,
and when people are acknowledged
mm,
for doing something.
I think okay, so I think the part it was the very end of the show, right? These they were Palestinian, and he went back home to visit, and he was leaving the country to come back to America with his family, and they were pretty much just messing with him. They were like he found his dad's old recorder. His dad had passed away, and the guy TSA guy was like breaking his VHS, and he wanted to snap, but his mother had told him previously, she said, you know, the things that they do to us, you must smile through it. To so that you can't allow them to break you, and I think that's what it was. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, you probably won't see that on a lot of shows.
no, it was very
Yeah,
deep.
yeah. I collect shows that I know will make me cry
Oh, really?
because I might as well. It's a release. It's releasing something that needs to come out.
mm, yeah, yeah.
So
I
a lot of
mean,
medical
yeah.
shows.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So that's your thing. Okay. But yeah, I was like, wow, that really I guess for me, because I had to be resilient so much of my life, but to like you can just smile through it and let
Yeah,
people know that you don't have that power over me. Because pretty much the story with the guy, he was a hothead. So
right.
whenever
Oh,
any little thing,
interesting.
his ego wouldn't let him be quiet. So he would get himself into so much. But in a situation like that, if he would have lost his temper, they'd be stuck in Palestine. So
Nice.
yeah, but I
Wow.
think yeah, it was very deep. It's called Mo. So yeah, you should check it
Oh,
out
I'll
if you're
check it out.
yeah. Yes. So if you can implant a cheat code in someone's brain, what would it be?
The cheat code is finding out why you're triggered.
Mm-hmm.
If we had a whole planet full of people who actually did that piece of work, Putin wouldn't be invading the Ukraine. He'd understand what it is that he's not feeling that compels him. We can
Mm-hmm.
understand all that's the cheat code. Notice where you feel, if you're doing something, if you're triggered, if you desperately want to do something,
Mm-hmm.
see if there's some kind of underlying hurt that you're trying to to heal.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said that because I used to think about a lot in my youth about Hitler and how he was an artist and all of these things, but he he wasn't seen the way he wanted to be seen, and he just
Right.
happened to be super charismatic. So he channeled that energy into something else, but it came from his trauma and triggers. um yeah, I don't know, but I guess you because you said Putin, and I used to think a lot about uh when we would study and we actually learned more. I wanted to know why someone could do these things, and really learning, oh, like he was like really a sensitive artist that uh channeled it into the wrong thing because he wasn't accepted the way he wanted to be. So yeah, I love that triggers.
Yeah, yeah. If we could heal everybody's triggers, what a world.
Yes, yes. um and so yes, lastly, let's talk about this concept of the blob.
Okay. The concept for me is we're really just we're atoms might be more than what we are actually,
Mhm,
but all of life is superimposed on us.
mhm,
We're not really the personality we have. We're not really in charge. It's like this is all happening on top of us.
mhm,
And the blob is kind of how I describe, well, the Sanskrit term of Maya or the world of illusion, or the
mhm,
sense that we're the ocean, with the sense that we're the waves and not the ocean,
mhm,
the sense that we're the movie and not the screen.
mhm,
all that stuff is the blob, and I've found it very comforting and useful um, to see it that way.
Mm,
It's more palpable than the traditional language that I've been taught. But
mm,
yesterday, this saint named Nisargadatta, the sentence where "I'm not the body, I'm the knower of the body,"
mm,
became kind of more powerful. Even, I mean, the
mm,
body being the blob in a sense,
mm,
the experience is the body being the blob. Because once you see that you are the knower of the body rather than the body itself, and you
mm.
know that some part of your mind is your body changes all the time, and you get
Yeah.
to be gray like me, and different weights and all these other things and different heights, and you're still the same. What
Mm,
you are is the same. Your experience, and this is why we all think we're younger than we are,
right.
because we haven't changed at all inside. The knower is, so we know that. And once you see yourself as the knower, you suddenly begin to see everyone else as also the knower and not the body.
Mm,
And on
mm,
my walk last night, I was just like loving people in a way
mm.
that were walking by me, and loving trees, like in a really profound way, and kind of loving the cement and the underneath my feet and the
Mm,
fences, because all of it's not what it appears to be.
right. Right.
It's really the whatever, the unity, the whatever.
Right. I think what helped me really detach from the idea of our physical body being the end all be all is when my father died.
Hmm.
And for those first 3 days, I felt like he literally like invaded my body. Like I felt him, I moved like him, I talked like him. When I looked in the mirror, I saw his face, and it was
Wow,
interesting. Yeah, it was interesting.
it was kind of
Uh,
a possession. It sounds like.
yeah, it felt like I was being possessed. But actually, all of my sisters felt the same exact thing,
Oh,
and
interesting.
it only lasted for exactly 72 hours. So I don't know what that's about, but in that, I realized, like, oh, okay, like I kind of understood that death wasn't the end and that there's more and all of that. But like I said, skeptical, got to experience things. Experiencing that really opened me up to being like, okay, there is so much more beyond us that this, I'm just here to experience this. But, you know, I don't have to be so stuck in what this reality, because there's
Yeah.
more than that. But yeah, that changed it for me, and it was also very strange because like when he died immediately, I couldn't think of any negative thoughts. And my father was a bit of a jerk, but I couldn't think of not one negative thought. I just
Well,
felt love and all the good memories. I'm like, yeah, of course, that's what you want me to feel, Dad. But yeah, I was like, and like you said earlier about dreams, my dreams, I remember like 90% of my dreams give me very uh, direct messages, and yeah, I had a dream about him that night where he pretty much, got, because we didn't get a chance. It kind of happened like really suddenly. So we didn't get a chance to say goodbye, but he did come to me in a dream to say goodbye.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah,
nice.
but that changed my perception on life and what it means to exist.
Terrific. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It was a lot. It was unexpected. It was something that I just didn't wrap my head around in the beginning. but I knew he was there. And then from that point, I feel him all the time now. So yeah,
That's great.
I love my dad.
That's nice.
Yes. So on this cosmic journey, if there's one message that you could leave all of these cosmic travelers with, one transmission, one download, what would it be? And we talked about a lot, so
Yeah, you're enough. You're exactly the way you're supposed to be at any given moment because you're
love
not
that.
really doing it anyway.
Yes, love
So
that.
all this discomfort you're feeling about not being enough, because we do, is it turns out we're much more than we really think we are.
Mm,
Uh, Just
mm.
just our beingness itself is enough. You look at a baby and they are lovable in and of themselves.
Yeah, right.
And they're
Don't
not
need to
doing
do
much.
anything. Right.
You know?
Just existing.
Yeah, they're lucky if they smile when they pass gas, you
Yeah, yeah, right.
know?
Mm, I think that's important. I feel like, especially in this day and age where we're a global society and uh, we're subjected to the internet where it can make you feel like, okay, maybe you aren't enough, you're not doing enough, and all of these things, especially I see it a lot in the younger generation having problems with that. And I think that's so powerful because, like you said, we love animals, we love babies, we love all these things that just exist, right? And they don't need to do anything. I'm a cat person, right?
Right. Right.
They
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
do anything, and I love them for it. They just have to be there, exist.
What if we
Um,
could be that way with ourselves and other humans?
yes, yes, exactly. And yeah, so I think that is important too, especially for the young kids to know that you are enough. Yeah, that's like radical, mature enough.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that.
So one last note: if you're wanting to know how to heal and find out the root cause of your triggers, just go to anxiety123.com and you will be able to get my little emotional overload first aid kit with my step-by-step process that works for almost everybody.
Mm-mm.
Nothing works
Yes, that.
100% of the time, but this has had a pretty high success rate.
Mm-hmm. And that's anxiety123.com.
As easy as 1, 2, 3. Yes.
Yes, love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me here. Where does the universe take you next?
I'm gonna make a video ad for my anxiety book
Oh, yes, I love that.
on overeating and how anxiety is the source of
Mm,
overeating, and so why not find new ways to deal with the anxiety, and rather than when you deal with the anxiety, you don't have to worry about willpower.
hmm Oh, I love that. Absolutely. Oh, wow, we can't wait for that one.
Yeah,
All
great.
right. Sure. All right, my cosmic travelers. So, as we prepare to drift back, we just want to thank Mahesh and the Blob spaceship for joining us on this transmission today. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time, guys, awaken, listen, debate. I'm not saying I'm desperate, but, man, I did just try to flip with a black hole, you know what I'm saying?
Not advisable. High chance of ghosting. Permanently.
Where to next, Arden?
Next stop. The Chamber of Cosmic Embodiment. A sacred realm where the soul meets the body and the mystical becomes tangible. Prepare for arrival.